Oh, oh my God. It is Friday Night Live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hopefully over the ages of like 16 or 17, because this is adult commentary here. So we might be using colorful language, very passionate language. So if you're one of the first people here on the call, I know you're going to hear that. And the rest of you guys are going to figure it out because that's how things work. So Friday Night Live, ladies and gentlemen, look who's in the house already. We love you guys for being here. We are going to get started in just a few minutes. Of course, we want to let everybody see the Facebook Live announcement, get the reminder, get to their spot, get their drink, get their paper, because most people are just kind of like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. So I'm here to just sit here and blabber and talk and keep you guys entertained while you all come on here, because this show tonight is fire. You see the red bandana? I don't wear the red bandana very often. I wear the red bandana when it's going to be an exciting conversation. It's going to be a passionate conversation about mastering your inner critic, right? When you think about life and you think about all the stuff that we go through, mastering your inner critic, can you imagine what your life would be like when you master your inner critic, when you realize that the fact of the things that are holding you back are your mindset and the things that you're thinking of, focusing on, and going down memory lane all the time about? That's your inner critic. And tonight we have 4 amazing people that are going to be sharing different perspectives and different stories about how we've overcome amazing situations in our life to still be kick-ass, to still be unstoppable, to still have this no excuses approach to life, but at the same time, learning to free fall, learning to just see life unfolding in the moment. That's the beautiful thing. I used to be a control freak. I used to want to figure out what plan A, B, and C was. And thank goodness for one of my guests that's going to be on tonight. She has taught me that you can't control what you can't control. You can only be in the moment for the uncertainty and see how it unfolds and be there to serve and see what is there as a gift for you. And I'm so pleased that one of the best people that I've had the opportunity to do this with is Mr. Scott Goyette. Scott, how are you doing, brother?
I am doing great. Sorry, I was looking down. I was sending some messages to people on my phone to get on this show right now. So
yeah, awesome. Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
You look fantastic. You look like you just took a shower and shaved. Did you?
I did take a shower and shave because here's the thing. You look good with a beard. This is what happens when I get a beard. You know The Shining? You know, like Jack Nicholson looks when he kicks the door in?
I think that's badass, dude.
Yeah, tell my wife that. It doesn't work for her.
I'll tell her. I think most guys with dark hair honestly look better with facial hair. I was almost going to do this. I'm going to do this probably in the next week or two. I'm going to shave all my facial hair off. I'm going to put a challenge out there for guys. And I'm going to say, hey guys, if you want to get out of your comfort zone, if you haven't shaved your beard in like the last 5 years, let's do it. You know, I think I've shaved every once in a while. I get a bug up my ass and I do it. And as soon as I do it, I go, ah! I'm like, yeah. It's so crazy. So it's kind of funny, but I do it just to get out of my own comfort zone. It's like when I shaved my head when I had long hair, I shaved it and I was like, you know, I actually kind of like it. It's kind of neat. But
I've done that. I've shaved my head completely bald. I did it the week I met my wife. I literally did it just to prove a point that girls actually like guys for personalities. And so I told my buddy, I go, met this girl. She's really super cute. I'm going to shave my head to prove a point that it's not all about the looks. And I did it. And I said, well, there goes that girl. And then she actually told me later on, she goes, yeah, I always had this thing for bald guys. I was like, just my luck.
Uh-huh.
And I don't look good bald. Some guys do. Some guys have the right head, the right shape. I look better crazy with a beard than bald. So
well, you should try that. I've seen some of my friends who have lost their hair and they've been like really good looking guys with short hair, but they started losing their hair and all of a sudden they put a goatee on. Yeah. And all of a sudden they went from being like this good looking, clean cut, you know, surfer dude is laid back. And they go all of a sudden to looking like they're in the penitentiary. It's fucking amazing. It's so cool. They're still cool hearted people. And you just see them, you're like, dude, you got my friend Rob. He has clean shaven all of his life. And one time he grew I said, grow a little chin hair. He grew it. He looked like the demon. He went from being mom's apple pie to a demon. I'm like, dude, shave that shit off. You look scary. And he's like, I know, people like walk away from me. It was just a little chin hair. You just do a little soul patch or something like that.
Yeah. No, you're right, man. You're right. Hey, so you got the red bandana. What I brought today was I'm going to keep bringing a different necklace, a little chain, like things that I've picked up around the world. And today I've got the Tree of Life. And it's from Bali. And since we're going to be talking about those things that live within us, you know, we're going to be talking about our roots and where all that stuff comes from and how to manage ourselves. I thought the Tree of Life would be pretty good. And we've got some people on board who, they're going to be able to, I don't even know if I want to talk today. They're going to be so solid. I'm going to sit back and drink beer and just listen.
So, yeah. Oh, you got a beer? Well, cheers. First of all, cheers.
Gluten-free.
Gluten-free. Ooh,
for
awesome.
those out there with celiac, I'm drinking the gluten-free beer.
You know what's funny? This actually isn't even funny, and I'm sure most people won't care about this, but it's crazy. I don't drink beer very much anymore, but I love my Red Stripe. And when summertime hits and we go out by the pool, I've got a refrigerator out there, so I grabbed a Red Stripe and I drank it. And like literally, I've been studying how different things impact your insulin and your thyroid and different stuff like that. I drank that beer, and within 5 minutes, I felt like shit. I felt bloated. I felt hot. I felt weird, and I'm like. And I've had gluten tests before, but I was like, wow, this really, when you start to notice it, instead of looking for the buzz, you start going, why do I feel like shit? It's like, yeah. I think it was that beer. So yeah, I'm just drinking hydrogenized water.
Here you go.
No, actually, this is the water. And this, my friends, is the thought juice, Jack Daniels. All right. So man, we've been doing this now for what? Since COVID started. And it was like March 20th. Wasn't it somewhere around there?
Right about that. Since we were pinned in the house, we said let's connect with people. I mean, we're going to be at home. We might as well get out somehow. We're doing it through StreamYard and through this, and it's been awesome. So, dude, it's been amazing. We've had some really incredible guests on here sharing different aspects of life, which is the beauty of it. And you brought that to me. You brought that, like, normally I would have been, if I would have done a show like this, I would say, okay, who are like-minded people? Who are some of that? But the thing I love about what you bring to the table and the fact that the people that we know are interconnected in that way is the love and the light and the soul, the things that I've been realizing in my life through my coach, who's going to be on here in just a minute. But we've had some miraculous guests. We've made a ton of friends. I mean, look at this. We've already got a bunch of people in here already, like just saying, what we got? Apple pie. Chad was on here last week. We've got Cindy. She says, no, don't shave at least one. So we got Cindy on here. We got, oh, she's awesome. You rock, so we've got an amazing group that we are just building here. And it's just so phenomenal. And I just can't wait to bring on our guests. So why don't you have the honors of introducing Alex first, and then I'll bring on the incredible Sally Anderson. Super. So this gentleman we're about to bring on board, he's a coach, a human design coach. And if you guys aren't familiar with what that is, at some point he can explain it or share it right at the end. He also is a sound healer, and he has sound healing journeys. And if you understand the concept that we're all trying to elevate to the frequency of love, Alexander can take you there. And this guy is amazing. He's got a story like no other. Actually, I shouldn't say like no other, because we got Sally too. There's a lot of stuff going on today. But Alexander is a superhuman. I can honestly say that. When I think of a human being that literally is at the frequency of love, it's Alexander. So let's bring him on.
Then also we have the incredible, the unbelievable, and this is no bullshit. You guys know I don't fluff anybody's skirts up or anything else, but I have the author of this amazing book, Free Fall by Sally Anderson. Sally and I have had a relationship, I think, going back to 2013. She's also the author of this beautiful book called The Co-Creative Age, a leadership book. And she has actually just recently started a joint venture, and she's doing multiple things within the community of dealing with leadership and C-suite executives and just changing the mindset in a powerful co-creative age. And Sally's been my coach for a long time now, a beautiful friend of mine. And I think I know tonight's conversation is going to be absolutely powerful. So we have Alexander with us, and we also have Miss Sally Anderson. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here's the Friday Night Live crew here to talk about mastering your inner critic. And I just want to say hello, guys, and how are you doing tonight?
Hello. Thank you.
How are you doing, Miss Sally?
Absolute privilege to be here and dance with you guys. So I have no idea where we're going to go tonight, but it's going to be good.
And you're from the beautiful place of where?
Aotearoa, New Zealand, and one of the most amazing places on the planet. And for your listeners, if you haven't been to New Zealand, you need to come.
My wife and I were actually no shit. I haven't told you this, Sally, because I wanted to save it as a surprise here. We were so enamored with your prime minister and the fact of her leadership. She actually Googled what it would take to go live in New Zealand. I kid you not.
Half the world has done that.
Amazing would that be if we moved to New Zealand and we're right there with you and Raj? I was like, I would go to New Zealand in a second compared to where here we are in the United States, but that's a whole other subject. But how are you doing, Alexander? Where are you coming to us from?
I'm doing well. I'm coming from North Carolina.
Really? Yeah. I see you and I have a similar little studio vibe on there. What's going on with music? Talk to me about that, man. Because I'm huge into music. I got tattoos of music all over me. I love music.
I've noticed the guitars, and yes, I'm in my recording studio, and I've got my, of course, guitar hanging there, a Fender Strat, and I got my sitar back here and gongs and didgeridoos, and
all types of things, man. So I was a performing musician for about 11 years, up to about the age of 30 or 31. And I shifted my perspective from entertaining people with music to finding a way to utilize music to help them. So I started studying indigenous cultures and how they used sound. And then I went to a sound healing school in 2007, went through a major life trauma in 2008, losing a life partner of 11 years to cancer and having to rebuild from that. And sound was a big part of that whole transition. And so now I've developed a whole philosophy, a frequency-based philosophy of how to approach life through emotional release, self-awareness, and raising consciousness. So that's in a nutshell.
Damn. Well, thank you for being here, brother. And thank you for bringing the music. Thank you for bringing the life. One of the things that I want to do tonight, and Scott and I had talked about this, is that all of us have very, very unique backgrounds that really do make us experts in the fact of mastering your own critic. And we never truly master it, I don't necessarily think, but I know that each of us has an amazing story, which I want to get into a little bit in just a little bit once we have more people on the phone or on the line, on the call tonight. But, you know, given the discussion and everything that's going on with COVID crisis and talking about the aspect of mastering your inner critic, what have you guys seen that people are struggling with right now with their inner critic? Not necessarily about their past or anything else, but during these times, what are some of the things that are going on in their minds with their inner critic that you have seen personally in your situations and the people you connect with?
Sally, please.
Sally?
Alrighty, I'll go first. I'm in a group of gentlemen here. Ladies first. I said on a podcast yesterday, actually, that as much as there is a viral pandemic, I believe there's an even bigger pandemic going on. It's the fear pandemic. And it highlights the amount of people on the planet who are unconscious and lack trusting the unknown. Hero's Journey talks about the 12 phases of transformation, and it starts being in the unknown realm, and then we move into the known realm, and then if we evolve and change, we re-access the unknown world. And sadly, what this pandemic has highlighted, in my observation, is what I already knew, but I feel for people who do not have a faith, whatever that is, higher power, universal force, collective consciousness, God, not attached to what you call it. But if you don't have a faith, it's a pretty scary place to be. And if you're a control freak, and I'm a self-confessed control freak from the past, there's two contexts to control: empowered control, disempowered control. Those that are so, everything's got to be sorted, I've got to know what's going on. This has highlighted the high volume of uncertainty in their personal lives, in the lives of those they know, in their businesses, their future. It's unprecedented. And what excites me even in this pandemic, I actually posted something the other day. Somebody asked me, how are you? How's your family? And how's your business? And I posted just randomly, I'm fantastic. My family are great. And I'm probably at the most exciting time of my business. And I think that tracked about 2,000 likes on LinkedIn. The amount of doom and gloom and conspiracy theory, and it's rife out there. And part of what I teach, obviously, is the ability to live and lead in a quantumous life, the ability to be the observer of what is, not how it could have been, should have been, wanted it to be. So I feel for the heightened rate of volume with the stinking thinking, internal dialogue, and obviously at some stage during today's discussion, I'll speak into the 2 to 3 decades of research I've done into specifically mastering the inner critic, given that I'm a stand to have it in the schooling system. But yeah, I'd say upwards of 80 to 90% of human beings on the planet, because it comes with the territory, are struggling to be able to be with this whole unknown domain.
Mm-hmm. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. What do you think about that, Scott?
Man, I mean, she's right on. And, you've heard me say the same thing with that observer state so many times. You step back and you start looking at the world from a space of love, and love, not in the eros sense, but the agape sense, where we just look and realize that we're love is going to teach us. It's not the individual. And we step into that frequency, we're going to lose that fear. And I've said it a million times before. You've got a cup, and that cup right now might be full to the portion of love, but if there's a bunch of fear and that's what you're going to, and your sip, you're going to receive that, and that's what you're going to get. And so I would just highlight exactly where she's going with that there is a dynamic right now that we're seeing so many of us gravitating towards fear, because typically with the opportunity to dodge our cup, we're running the rat race and we're sitting in it right now. We're recognizing that fear. And a lot of people are trying to figure out, how do I fill my cup with love? And that's why we're doing these shows. That's why we've got sound healing. That's why we've got intellectuals like Sally, who are going to bring this amazing opportunity to start. We've talked about all the great business books, or how do I start? So I'd love to make sure people walk away today with opportunities of, how do I start removing that fear? It's not going to be, you're not going to do that today. We get that. It's a journey. And I'd love to see that practice start right here and now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what's great about this community is that we have questions already. What did each of you tolerate until you couldn't do it anymore? Cindy is an amazing person who I've come to know and love. She's a fire spirit, and she's here and she's always learning, and she has so many aspirations in life that she is just amazing. But that's a great question. What did each of you tolerate until you couldn't do it anymore? Who would like to go first? Actually, you know what? I'll go first. I'll just riff on that, and then I'll let you guys jump off on that. Honestly, I would say, what did I tolerate until I couldn't do it anymore? That had to have been the fact that the period of when I was 13 to 17, when I was homeless and living on the streets and surviving and stealing and digging through trash cans for food, doing everything for my mom, doing every single thing. I realized the other night, I had a couple of drinks, and I do this every once in a while, and I try to figure out what my feelings are, because I know I hide them. And so I had a couple of drinks, I put on some music, and I realized in much to my surprise, in my journaling and in my thinking, is the fact that I held my mom as a hero. And up until some point, I had to realize that she wasn't my hero anymore. So I tolerated the fact that she treated me like crap. She physically, mentally, spiritually abused me. And I say that not for pity or anything else, because it made me the person I am today. But the fact that I tolerated that for so long. But when I stopped and I realized, after I tried to commit suicide twice, unfortunately sucked at it, after I tried all sorts of drugs and alcohol and stealing and all this other different things, I realized I couldn't tolerate the fact that I was not putting myself first anymore. And in that situation was one of the most difficult, challenging, hard, most fucked up things I've ever had to do. But I had to leave my mom in a situation that was unsafe, that was, unpredictable, uncertain. And I had to fight for my own life. Otherwise I would have been dead or in jail or an alcoholic or something else. I would not be where I'm at today. So I tolerated that abuse. I tolerated that stuff for so many years. And then once I put myself first and put myself around the right amount of people, things started to change, and I started getting the right perspectives. And that's what we're bringing here tonight. So that's kind of my answer, but I'm very, very curious what's your guys' answer to that other question too, because that's the value we bring in our stories, is the fact that we've all been through an amazing, incredible, and I don't even know your journey totally, Alex, but I know yours a little bit, Scott, and I definitely know yours, Sally. Those situations are the ones that create the greatest leverage for growth. Am I right?
Yes. I agree. And with myself, it was insecurity and frustration. And I grew up very insecure as a young person, all the way up into my 20s. I was 19 before I started playing any instrument, got into music at all. But within 6 months, I was on stage and I was scared to death. And then I started getting introduced to self-development work in around 26 and 27. And I started developing that anything that I was afraid to do, I would do it as soon as possible. Once I started understanding subtle energy and how energy builds as you procrastinate. So that became a practice of mine in the beginning of my self-development, to lean into the friction, I call it. Anything that I want to resist, to lean into it as soon as possible. And then the next one was frustration. And I didn't realize until I was 40 years old that I had lived my whole life under frustration. Frustration of why the world was the way that it was, why people didn't want to work on self-development. They would rather acquire material things. And I didn't realize what this was doing to my body and to my energy field until I went through a major healing trauma. And I went through 5 years of excruciating chest pain every single day of my life, thinking that I could have a heart attack at any time. I did go to doctors. They didn't have any answers. They just had pills, and I chose not to go in that direction. I don't necessarily suggest that, but that was my choice. And I knew that I would either figure it out or I would die trying. And I happened to feel at that time that it was an emotional and energetic issue and not a physical issue. It took me 5 years to figure out that it was the emotion frustration. And then it took me 2 years to understand what to do about that. So now that's a big part of my work, is helping people to break through these limitations, to release the emotions that are tied to past traumas so that we can recalibrate. So once again, my language is always going to bring it back to the frequency range. And we're always looking to find homeostasis, so to say. And so those are my two big ones, was frustration and insecurity. And
awesome. Hey man, thank you for sharing that, Alexander. Cindy, I hope you're getting value out of this. I don't think Sally has anything really major in a contribution to share here, but I'm just going to take a chance. Once again, the amazing Miss Sally Anderson.
In answer to somebody's question, name a toleration on any level of anything dysfunctional. So extreme body dysmorphia, body revulsion, drugs, alcohol, self-loathing, self-criticism, hatred, name anything of a dysfunctional nature. I was tolerating it, but I didn't realize that it was all part of the master plan to cultivate the PhD masters in the most dysfunctional default behavior, identity. So I specialize in unearthing for people what I term their default disempowered identity, or the default blueprint unique within each individual. Having lived at the most dysfunctional end of psychotic behavior, I understand hell on earth. Stemmed from, had a great upbringing. Father was a guidance counselor, mother was an intellectually handicapped teacher, loved skiing. We born in New Zealand, went to Canada, came back when I was about 6. So I was white, freckles, Canadian accent, didn't look the same, sound the same, think the same. So my self-hatred started really young, and got my first job hiring out skis when I was 15. And kind of very long story short, hitchhiked into a local township in the early 80s. Everybody used to hitchhike in the early 80s. And with a girlfriend, had my first paycheck. Spend it on what I wanted to spend it on. And then being rebellious, I decided to go with my girlfriend into a local bar. And we didn't realize as we were walking into that bar that we were being cased out by a notorious gang here in New Zealand. And I ended up being abducted by the mob, and 8 mongrel mob members abducted me, took me right to the local hangout. I endured a good 10 to 12 hours on the block, thrown onto a butcher's block like a sheep carcass, raped by more than 100 men from every orifice. Nobody survives an experience like that. I was conscious throughout the ordeal, left for dead really, thrown onto the back of a ute or a truck, I'm not too sure what you call them in the States. And they took me to another hangout about an hour and a half away. And the rapes continued until I lost consciousness. And even though my father was a guidance counselor, what the hell do you say to your 15-year-old daughter? My parents didn't know how to deal with it. Go back to school, act like it didn't happen. No support. So I lived into being a suicidal maniac, pretty good at it, for over 2 decades. The only reason why I wasn't successful is that my brother died when he was 23, and I couldn't put my parents through another death. So he was actually my savior. So that's good 2 decades of, while people are getting married and having dates and getting mortgages and the normal things, I was trying to sort out my mental mind structure. So that was a powerful apprenticeship. I can look at the mob and say that they're my spiritual initiators for what I do today. So I understand toleration. Part of my coaching is over and above, the good old goal setting, is to also understand the undercurrent. And one of the processes is actually identifying what are the 50 things that you're tolerating. Organizational toleration, relationship toleration, financial toleration. I mean, there's an undercurrent. You can achieve your goals, but I specialize in sustainability. It's all very well to invest money into change. Let's make sure it's sustainable. So unearthing what you're tolerating is part of where that, because living a toleration-free life is pretty bloody cool. So Great question, and appreciate you tabling it today, Cindy.
Yes. Thank you, Cindy. And last, but certainly not least, I happen to know a few stories about Mr. Scott already. Scott, what would you like to share about your experience in the question that Cindy has given us?
So obviously it's impossible to follow Sally because she truly does have a PhD on existence. Because here's one of the things that I've studied through experiential study, reading, just interactions. I think it's so important for us to understand that we live in a world of contrast with great intention. And the master teacher is always going to experience both gamuts of that contrast. So I ask for that in everything I do. I'm the first to jump off the cliff. I'm the first to drink as many beers to see how close to death I can get. I mean, I've set records for eating the most chicken wings. I jumped the highest. I did the most drugs. I mean, you name it. I went after the polarity of existence. I wanted both spectrums of contrast for both good and bad. I wanted to feel the worst. I wanted to feel the best. One of the experiences I had, I fell through a glass table, literally lost more than half my blood, heart stopped, brought back to life. I mean, I can go, not to the extent of some of the things Sally's been through, but I can certainly tell you many stories where I've been to the brink, and there's been days where I've thought to myself, like, is this really the real world, where I just didn't want to be in it anymore. And what I've found is every time I've met with somebody that I've coached or I've taught or I've served, if I thought I understood their situation and I commented on it, or I tried to support them without truly understanding it, that situation would arise in my world. So I can tell you time and time again, if I would try to support somebody who was suicidal, I'd be like, but I don't know that feeling. That would come to me. I've never been suicidal in my entire existence. I've been just completely, however many bad things happen, I was never suicidal. This past year, I was on top of a building, the top of a building in Thailand. And I actually thought for the first time in my life, I'd love to just jump off this building. And it was very real. And the pain that I was feeling was probably the most disgusting, infuriating, sad, dump all those emotions in feeling, because so many times I've sat with somebody else supporting them who said they might have committed suicide. It was really close. And I feel like I need to understand that more than just me explaining what I think it might be like. So Sally's on point. The universe, if you want the PhD program and coaching and getting on stage or whatever your vehicle is to support, teach, and elevate people to a higher frequency of love, you've got to feel it. And so it's up to you if you wanted that or not. And I wanted it. And so here we are. I mean, it's, I was listening to Alexandra, I'm listening to Sally, and we know we're here for a reason, because when we plugged into this planet, we wanted it. We wanted to be master teachers. We wanted to serve. We wanted to elevate people to a frequency of love. And if you don't know, you don't know. And you got to know if you're going to teach.
Mm-hmm. And that's why we're all here. I mean, look at this. You guys can learn all about his philosophy by listening to his podcast, Wise. This is actually about, I think it's about Alexander.
Yes.
Wise, or searching why. Yeah. Awesome. I mean,
leave that up for a little bit with Chris so they can get on that, because he's got a great show too. We need to jump on his deal sometime too.
Yes.
Yeah. Make sure you're subscribed to this stuff, because these people here, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, you guys mostly know me from the Kick-Ass Nation and everything, but these are amazing people that I'm being introduced to, Alexander Wise, of course. But I think we had another question I want to bring up here, and I'm going to post all this actually in the after notes. So there was another question. I think it was Cindy. Let's see, there's
some good ones I'm looking into.
Somebody was asking me a question. Where is it? Oh, yes. They keep hearing the word frequency. Please explain, Alex. So yeah, I was going to actually ask you the same thing. So what is that frequency and what's that talking about? Because I think about binaural beats. I think about frequencies in our brain, but expand on that if you will. So that way people get a better understanding of what it is that they're coming from.
Okay. Well, of course, everything is vibration. Everything is frequency that we experience on this plane. There is nothing solid. Everything is moving particles. Therefore, a fact of physics is disease is really a dis-ease. It's something is out of its natural vibration. So there are certain tuning systems. There are energy centers called chakras. or we have an auric field around us. That's actually been proven by Western medicine finally, that we have this energetic field. And so in my private practice and in my philosophy, I work with 5 different levels of wellness. And in order to work on wellness from a complete standpoint, is working on the physical, the mental, the emotional, the energetic, and the spiritual or religious. So even when we like sprain our wrist, there's 5 levels of healing to that. So when I'm talking about frequencies, it's like every organ in the body has a frequency. Every stone, gemstones, they have frequencies. So everything is emitting a frequency, and we are subject to that. And it's either in harmony to us or in dissonance. So for example, the earth puts off a frequency called the Schumann resonance. And that was very consistent up until 2014, around a little over 7 hertz. And then it spiked to the 20s, which was a big deal. Well, here recently, especially in the past week, it spiked to 50 or over 50. And that's normally at 7. So we are experiencing frequencies literally from a physics standpoint that we haven't experienced before. So what that does is it pushes emotions up to the surface to need to be released. So that's part of why everybody is so tense now. It's not just the COVID and being restricted to homes and that type of thing. It's that the earth is actually putting off a frequency from some standpoints to elevate consciousness. So it's kind of like the chicken or the egg. The frequency affects humans and makes us more emotional, or is it when humans get more emotional, it creates that frequency to rise in the earth? I don't get into which one comes first. It's just that it has an effect on us. So that's, I'm always going to find the frequency in anything that I'm talking about so that I know whether I'm in harmony or in dissonance with someone. So I hope that was helpful.
Wow. So Cindy says, so we're out of sync. Yeah. And
yes, we're out of sync.
Yeah, it really is. You got to get in sync with your own harmony. That's what I've been figuring out. And that's what Sally's been amazing at teaching me is like, one of the things that was so profound about what you told me, Sally, and I'm going to share this right now, is the fact that you were always saying, Chris, you're in survivor mode. You're in survivor mode. And I never really understood that because all of my life I really have. And I was like, no, I'm not in survivor mode anymore. I'm in thriver mode. I'm good. And she was like, no, you're still coming from an aspect of the scarcity. You're still coming from this aspect of lack and fear and all these other things. And it wasn't until I really understood what she said. And when she told me to read Why Me, Why This, Why Now, it really started to understand, and then reading Drama of the Gifted Child and started reading Untethered Soul and the Surrender Experiment, and all these different things and including her book, which, really started off Freefall, was an amazing journey in the fact that I had to let go of the identity that I have and the inner critic that I had going on, which I still have every once in a while, but it's amazing because when you become separated from, and it's crazy to say this even for me because I'm the guy that talks about no self-help fluffy bullshit, but when you separate from the fact that who you are is your mind and who is your soul and the observer. Sally, I'd like you to talk a little about that because I think that's so incredible to say, okay, we often think we are who we are, but when you take a disconnected approach to that and you kind of take a backseat look at, okay, wait a minute, I'm not this human, I'm the soul having this human experience and this brain is conducting thoughts that are coming through there, but I don't have to accept them. Can you talk a little bit about that, Sally? Because I think that's so magnificent. That was so profound and how it helped me.
Well, that was my other PhD in survival. Takes one to know one. First of all, I want to acknowledge Scott for your acknowledgement of me before. Feelings very mutual. Everybody's experience is individual to them and is to be respected. There's no bigger, better, best, but just wanted to acknowledge that. And Alex, huge respect to the work that you do. I'm a huge advocate for the power that healing has in any form of reintegration work. Healing in isolation at a level is not sustainable. Coaching in isolation is not sustainable. The two together are formidable, given that I specialize in how to sustain change. But love everything that you're saying about frequency and vibration. It's very, very refreshing. So top marks, mate. Anyway, in answer to your question, I might actually go off on a tangent and then come back, Chris.
Oh, it's okay. Let's go on a tangent, of course. Just talk a little slower. Just make sure people get it, because you are a firepower.
Yeah, one of the biggest feedbacks I get is that, man, that woman speaks fast. In both of my books, I talk about a thing called culturalization. Currently on our planet, the only way that human beings evolve usually is through some form of adversity. Tornadoes, earthquakes, tsunamis, acts of God, they're kind of like a mass awakening. And our schooling system doesn't change in the way en masse in what it is that we teach. So it kind of like keeps the collective population at a certain level of consciousness. So having lived an extreme level of adversity throughout my life, I feel as though I chose the life contract. I do believe we all have an individual life contract, my only way of understanding what I've experienced. And being able to, I didn't come willingly to faith. I didn't come willingly to, I mean, I would have been the biggest skeptic. And I don't actually need to label my faith. I'm just unconsciously competent. I tap into it 24/7. I'm a co-creative conduit. I channel information and train other leaders on how to tap into their co-creative ability. But just back into that concept of culturalization, I do believe that part of my life path, having lived an extreme lifetime of adversity on many different levels, is to be an example of what's possible for raising consciousness beyond the need for what would it be like if we on the planet could actually learn and evolve without having to go through any form of adversity. Usually that's the only time people have the awakening and that they're evolving through their different soul, back to your original question there, Chris, their soul lessons. So a woman I met a number of years back, she did life contract work, and she talked about your mind will, personal will, and spiritual will. And spiritual will is, the happening, the what happened. So, I've got a number of those in my life. The mind will is then how do you then take that learning and then be able to teach others through the path of that evolution. And then personal will is that transcendence into becoming self-actualized. Without that sounding too hoi polloi, to me, that's just the ability to reach that level of economy, that ability to be the observer of, because all of human suffering is a function of what we make things mean. Stop making things mean stuff and you won't keep suffering. And they're all a function of the projections that we live. We live a very disconnected life. Again, back to your original question, Chris, around most people who are in some level of survival and at some stage of today's presentation love to speak into any form of disempowered state and any form of inner critic conversation. It is possible to be able to transcend those experiences without it including a drug. So I'm a challenge to the pharmaceutical industry, definitely a challenge to the weight loss industry, which is $1 trillion industry, not interested in sustainable solutions. So everybody's got a choice. Fundamentally, the essence of what I'm trying to say is that we all have a choice. We have a choice on how we react, a choice on whether we evolve. It's not everybody's bag, right? I mean, I can bang the tambourine, but not everybody's interested in evolving to their highest potential. I find that sad. And usually we get the tap on the shoulder, we ignore it, the 4x2 at the back of the head, we ignore it, Mac truck, usually is when we awaken to, oh, okay, I might get with the program. I've usually learnt my lessons at the Mac truck and not recommended. So it's a choice, fundamentally, is what I'll leave this question with. It's a choice whether you get present to the cost of what you're tolerating. It's a choice on whether you wish to be. There's enough support out there, and everything that you communicate on a daily basis, Chris, is so refreshing because it's speaking the obvious. But usually people are very tuned out to looking at themselves to that degree. Until they get their wake-up call,
It's so true, and that is a massive truth bomb. Did you guys get that? I mean, come on. I mean, that's ridiculous. Who wants to comment? Let's see this. Cindy says to go after what you won't tolerate from yourself anymore. Now then, what you won't tolerate in others now in your journey. Scott, thoughts of love comes into the equation. How can that be incorporated into your life to teach others how to get past that intolerance? Woo! Cindy's bringing firebomb questions. Damn, look at this. We got Still getting the hang of this. Feeling so much love for each of you and the raw vulnerability shares. I mean, that's what this is about. I mean, look at this shit. I mean, we've only been going for 39 minutes, and I mean, people are like going, "Hey, holy shit, I'm getting a wake up call." Who wants to dovetail on what Sally just shared?
I can go real quick. I'll just summarize a couple things and then pass it off to Alexander. I knew what was going to happen tonight. One of the reasons I didn't really want to talk to Sally before we get on here is you can feel when souls are deeply connected, and the fact that we've crossed paths together, Chris, and you crossed paths with Sally means we've all crossed paths with one another. Alexander was supposed to be here. We're also supposed to be here. Our stories are similar but different, but from the heart. And I want to echo, because I think this is important for people to realize, all the lessons that we can learn in life and hear loud and clear what Sally just said, they come with a tap at first. It might be a tap on the shoulder. It might be like, hey, check this out. You can learn this right now. It's your choice. And then it might be a tap on the back of the head. And the freight train, the Mack truck, whatever you want to call it, is coming if you don't learn the lesson. And like Sally, I don't know what it is. I saw Cindy put a question up earlier. She said, why did you like that polar existence? I don't know. I don't know why I like to get hit by freight trains to learn my lessons. I really don't. But anybody who's ever met me, me and Sally could trade places in that sense. I would have walked into that bar. I really think it's this simple. Like when you look at my human design, and Alexander can talk about this in a minute, I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher by nature. And to teach, you need to truly understand. I can read it in a book 5,000 times, but I'm not going to understand it until I get punched in the face. And I'm like, oh yeah, I got it now. Mm-hmm. And so you have an opportunity. And I really highly suggest to people, and if you're an experiential learner like many of us here, maybe you can't process this, but try to learn those lessons when they're just tapping at your door. Because if you're listening to some of our stories, and we can all probably go deeper and deeper, you don't have to take it this far. And that's why we're here to teach, to say, there's another way. And so hopefully we can help you think a little more clearly to just recognize those taps. And listen, if you've got somebody who shows up in your life that you keep saying that person's annoying, or there's a certain lesson that when you stop and think about it, you blame everybody else, but is there some part you're playing in that? The minute you can process that and work through that in your own, what Alexander talks about, working through your emotions, if you can work through that, that's gone. And here's the thing, as human beings, we want to walk into freight trains, and I'll pass it on to, I shouldn't say we, I do. Okay.
No, I think that's true. I mean, I think that's a brilliant point, Scott, is the fact that I think that's a brilliant point, Scott, is the fact that the thing that I've been espousing so much lately is the fact that we run away from our pain. We run away from the things that are uncomfortable. We run away from the things that are uncertain. But the fact that the thing is that that's what makes us grow. That's what causes that friction to make the diamond. I mean, when you think about, and I told somebody just the other day, I'm like, when you think past on your life, was it the great experiences that were easy that taught you something? Or was it the shitty experiences, the valleys you had to go through, the fucked up shit you had to experience that you look back on and went, wow, I'm so thankful I went through that. That's my goal. And Scott and I have been doing this for so long now. I mean, it seems like so long, but the fact is that, and we were talking earlier about this, that I think that there's going to be, my original goal with COVID was the fact that we were all going through this together, and that there was going to be a unification of the world where everybody's going to say, holy shit, we went through this together. We all were scared for our families. We're all scared for what was going to happen to the economy. We're all scared for what was going to be happening. And we're going to come out of this singing Kumbaya and everything's going to be great. But Scott and I were talking about earlier about something that was posted on his Facebook page. And I said, I'm starting to see these little itty bitty silos that are happening. Like there's going to be the people that are going to be scared and fear and in all sorts. They're going to be, I can't remember the exact term I used for it, but they're going to be the scarcity people. Then you're going to have the people that are going to be scraping to survive. They're going to be trying to do everything they can to hold it together. And then you're going to have those of us who are thriving, who are looking at this as an opportunity, like, okay, how can I capitalize on this? How can I look at this as Mother Nature saying, fucking reset your shit and do the things that you love to do, because life is short. So I expand on that. And I want you guys to comment on that, because, when you think about mastering your inner critic, that's the judgment, that's the fear, that's the vulnerability inside. And somebody just commented on the fact that they appreciate we're so vulnerable. Well, we're strong today, and we're stronger today because we went through those experiences. What do you guys say about that when people are looking at, I don't want to feel that. I don't want to deal with my childhood. I don't want to deal with my past. I don't want to deal with the fucked up shit that happened. What do you guys say to that in order to become where you are today?
Well, I think this led right into what I wanted to talk about anyway, was to comment on that listener that was mentioned the vulnerability, because that's what I appreciate that's being exemplified here. And another level of consciousness is when you learn to respond to life rather than react. And part of responding is willing to be vulnerable. And many times when we've gone through things in life and we've maybe made poor decisions or question later, why did I have to go through that? Sometimes it's because we're looking for approval. Sometimes it's because we don't want to not fit in. There's many reasons, but the main, I guess, umbrella is that fear of being vulnerable. And I see that so thick in our culture. And so that's what I feel like is needed now in these times, is examples rather than just teachers. It is the examples. Yes. And the more that we are willing to tell our stories. Scott and I had a conversation a little bit earlier in the week, and we were both sharing how, similar to what Sally said, that there is some thriving going on, that I've utilized this time to do all this emotional release work. And it's been such a gift. And there's very few, it can be challenging to share that with just anyone because there is so much fear base. And I happen to want to meet people where they are rather than creating resistance. So being compassionate with that, but at the same time, celebrating when it's worth celebrating and being real about it, and then being willing to tell our stories just as everybody has done so beautifully without even going into detail. But I think the listeners, got a vibe from everyone here that, no, there's been some real life lived here, and that we're just here to share our experiences, and we can't heal anybody, but we can learn a lot from each other. And that is a little bit of helping each other, not necessarily always have to hit that brick wall.
Damn, dude, that was so cool. How succinct was that? I mean, seriously, look at
alley-oop, baby. You alley-ooped it.
Respond to life, be vulnerable, don't be the one to react. That's so funny that you guys talk about that, because one of the central things in my coaching is the fact that I teach people how to respond versus react, because so often our emotional state is the fact that if somebody comes across us, we have to react because we have to be in control. We have to have that anger. If I'm angry and I'm in control, then I have, the sense, the position and the situation. But that's the craziness, is that when you let that go, when you free fall and you just become who you need to be, that's the beautiful thing in this part of this journey that we're talking about. I mean, there's so many amazing research shit. I love Aaron. Aaron, you're a rock star. I love that. Who do we have here? We live in contrast learning environment. As human, you have your range of awareness and vision. The intensity identifies your density, and you will meet that and are at every moment. Well, Marlene, thank you for saying that. And apparently somebody else likes freight chains too, Scott.
We got them all on there. We got a bunch of back truck freight train lovers.
Yes, Chad says because you could assist you on your design of your life. And of course, bam, true, Scott. What do you guys feel like sharing? I mean, from your heart and the situations that are coming up and the questions that are happening, what is calling to you to share in this situation about mastering your inner critic and helping these people? Because we've got a ton of people watching. We're sharing across different platforms. What's calling to you right now to speak to help these people?
Chris, I want to share just one line, and then I feel like Sally's got a lot, but I want to share one line. I think this is the most important part of this. That's why I want to share it. Alexander just said it. You are your own guru. So hear this and understand this. There's two parts of this existence. All your answers lie within, okay? But your connections allow you, through mirroring, the universe is your mirror, to see the lessons. So through your connections, through your love for yourself, you'll find those lessons. So listen to what Alexander just said loud and clear, because I promise you, the connections that are showing up, your angels, your teachers, sure, they're going to share the information, but you ultimately will process and grow internally. It's all inside you. And so trust in you. and I'll hand that out to Sally because I can feel something good coming.
Well, I really like to give value and practicality in these type of forums. So if your audience have a pen and pad in front of them, I'd love to share with you.
Better, because I told them to.
I'm doing it. I'm writing down right now.
So this is a tried and proven process. So as I said earlier, I'd spent a good 2 to 3 decades researching everything there is to know about mastering the inner critic. So hence I really love the topic of today's presentation. And I've got my own take on it. I'm wanting mastery of the inner critic in the schooling system. So the process that I'm going to give you not only is the process that I use to teach people how to silence their inner critic. That's not managing it or coordinating yourself around it. This is about silencing it. Because if we can achieve what we achieve with this vicious inner critic, what on earth could we achieve as a human race if it didn't exist? And if it was in the schooling system, like I can talk to a 9-year-old child who has a heinous inner critic. I can talk to a 49-year-old client who's had 4 decades of self-beration. And it's sad. It's a phenomenal from a human perspective that we can achieve what we achieve in the face of it. But there's not enough education in our schooling system about something that's fundamental. To be human is to have an inner critic. It annihilates human potential. And there needs to be more understanding of it. I dance at the C-suite level, high-level influencers, millionaires, billionaires, you name it. People who have everything have do not have it handled, people, by any shape of the imagination. That's another conversation. Stick to topics, Sally, stick to topics. So the process that I want to give you, like anything, if it's applied in the way in which it's designed, don't modify it, don't try and change it. It works, it's proven. One of the chapters in my book, Freefall, Living Life Beyond the Edge, is called I Don't Believe in Depression. Got a lot of flack over that. That it in no way, shape, or form is discrediting people who believe that they have depression. However, any level of dysfunction, given that I've got a doctorate in dysfunction, is a function of being disconnected, feeding a past and or future-based negative projection, disempowered projection. That's it. Don't complicate it. People love to complicate it. And people love the biggest strategy of the default, that disempowered aspect of your identity, is confusion. How convenient you're confused. You don't have to be responsible. So this particular process, what I love about it is that it's so easy. People who've had 30 years of hating their father, 30 years of so-called depression and done every drug known to man, and if you're depressed, I'm not taking the piss here, but if you're depressed, you're already disconnected. You go to a doctor who we're supposed to trust, and they then disassociate you even more by putting you on depression drugs. I've got an issue with creating all these frigging acronyms, PTSD, ADHD, and then putting a drug to it. I'm not undermining the medical side of things. Do not get me wrong. However, there is another way that is non-drug related to be able to recalibrate and reintegrate back into being whole and complete. There is a time and a place for psychotherapy. There's a time and a place for counseling. There's a time and a place for doing integrative healing. There's a time and a place for medication. My issue is the mass production of stuff. Again, another topic, another time. Back to the process, Sally. So if everybody was to write down the Rissa Process, it's called. It could have been a nicer name, but it's not. It's the acronym. R is for reaction. So if you write down reaction, the second R is recognition. Then E for evaluation. S for sensation, and R for reaction. So I actually learnt this doing a course called Vipassana, which is a meditational retreat. Sends Westerners crazy. 12 hours meditation daily in silence, no eye contact. And for the Westerner, very interesting, 10 days, try it on. But you're not allowed to write anything down. And me being a channeler, and it also cemented my belief in equanimity and become equanimous. And this is where I got the process from. And so as soon as I could come out and I was able to talk, I was able to write, I wanted to find a simplistic process and one process that deals with the inner critic and one process that deals with every disempowered state, anxiety, depression, fear, anger, frustration, any disempowered state, one process, any inner critic conversation, one process. That's extraordinary, personally speaking. So what confuses the default, given that I specialize in the default, is that it doesn't want to get that it's so easy, because then you'd have to be responsible. That's the kicker here. Now, for this to work, you need to know what you're committed to. You need to know what it is that you're motivated by. To be able to sustain change, which is also what I specialize in, you need to know what motivates you. That again is another conversation. But for this to work, and you'll see that when you want to shift the sensation, when we get down to that level. So I'm going to give you 2 examples. We'll walk it through with an inner critic, and we'll walk it through with a disempowered feeling. Is that okay, Chris?
Absolutely. Bring it, baby.
Yeah. So Rissa Process for the inner critic. Inner critic says, who the hell do you think you are? We're in reaction. We're reacting to what the inner critic says. In that phase, also write observe. So reaction and observe is part of that first phase. So there's a difference between actually the irony when you actually start using this. You actually use it as your access point. You actually welcome the inner critic. You welcome the disempowered state, because then you can apply the process and shift your state. The key to self-mastery is not about not getting triggered. It's the length of time you spend in the trigger. A minute, an hour, a day, a week. Some people go to their graves being triggered people. So the ability to shift state is the mastery piece. To the day you die, you're going to get triggered. But through the power of awareness, you're able to shift state because you understand what's going on. So being able to educate people on what's actually going on, and them finding evidence. Evidence-based people are waiting for evidence to show up before they trust, versus trust-based people know that. Yep, trust-based people know that if they trust, then the evidence will show up. You know, that's kind of like their reward for trusting, right? 2 very different camps. So who the hell do you think you are? You're in reaction. Then observers, interesting. My inner critic just said, who the hell do I think I am? You're just kind of like observing it. Recognition, ask one question, only one question. What's actually really going on? Evaluation, I'm disconnected. What am I feeding? So something like, who the hell do you think you are, usually comes from the past. So distinguish, is it a future-based projection? Is it a past-based projection? Is it both? You don't have to psychoanalyze the situation. You just need to land, is it past, future, or both? So in this situation, it would be the past. Got it? Okay, good. So the inner critic, I get I'm disconnected. I get I'm feeding a past-based projection. If I'm ever in an inner critic conversation, I'm feeling disempowered. And if I'm ever in a disempowered state, I'm operating in child mode. If I'm in my power, I'm in adult mode. So training people, especially leaders, on how to sustain being in your adult state, empowered state all the time, regardless of circumstance, is the kicker. So in the sensation stage, you got a choice here. You can either remain in child state, feed a past-based projection, which you're choosing to do. You're now aware that you are doing that, and it's creating the dysfunction. Or you can re-access your adult state, reconnect at the heart space, reconnect to what you're committed to, what you're motivated by, and then be able to shift the reaction. Now, the kicker is, it's all very well to know that, but how do you actually shift that experience? God, the amount of leaders that I work with, they say, I get that intellectual, Sally, but I don't know, I get it intellectually, but. I go, okay, good. So, not expecting people to be happy, clappy people, but let's be aware and understand what's going on. If you are unable to shift your state, now that you actually understand what's going on, you are getting some payoffs out of staying in that state. Study of ontology, study what it is to be human. They distinguish that there were stock standard ontological payoffs that a human being uses to stay in dysfunction. And boy, are they running. I get to be right. I get to make you wrong. I get to be justified about my point of view. I get to be a victim, powerless to change the situation. I get to dominate, manipulate, and control. Those are the benefits that you get out of staying disempowered. Now, again, through the power of awareness, you can identify what those payoffs are. Most people can rattle off the cost of their dysfunction, but they're not present to the cost, because if they were, they'd move in a heartbeat. Now, that process to shift any inner critic conversation, every single time the inner critic is being spoken, the application of that disappears it, because the more that you're able to collapse it and get some humor, we move away from what I call SSD, serious, significantly, and drama. Banning SSD in our lives. Who would you be if you were never serious, significant, and dramatic ever again? Novel concept. So the ability of the nauseous application, actually getting to see the degree to which you're always hanging out in these past and future-based projections. Let's take the same process with depression. I'm feeling depressed right now. Interesting. I'm feeling depressed right now. You're just observing it. Okay. What's actually really going on? I'm disconnected. What am I feeding? for you to feel depressed in this particular moment, there'll be something. Usually there's worry going on. You're worried, or there's focus out here in the future, and or something in the past. Depression usually has the two running all the friggin' time. It's a cocktail. And there's a lot of payoffs. There's a lot of payoffs to being depressed. A lot of payoffs to all of dysfunction. And most people don't want to be aware of what's going on. It's far easier to be a victim. To then be able to, okay, good, you got a choice. You either can operate in the adult form or the child form. I'm not an advocate for either. I'm an advocate for people to choosing powerfully what they're committed to. And if you're committed to being a victim, then own that you're a victim. People love being fat. People love having their finances like shit. People love dysfunction. You know, that actually creates their default level of identity, and then they create that carnage out in the world. I did it for a good 20 years. I understand it. You know, my stinking thinking created hell on earth. And I didn't realize I had a choice. People often ask me, and I will shut up in a minute. People often ask me, you know, Sally, what changed for you in your life? And it was a course that I was in as a course junkie. I was up on stage, and the leader said to me, "You're a victim." And I had "Don't fuck with me" on my forehead, excuse the expression. And a bit of a hot wire. And I had victim mean weakness.
That's
and
why
when he made and when he made the distinction, weakness is about being powerless to change a situation. It was like a ticker tape parade. In that moment, my life changed. I got to see that I was the one. How many motivational books do we need to read that say, be careful what you think, your thoughts create your reality? Well, they do, you know, but we don't take responsibility for what's coming out of, you know, for our stinking thinking. So the Rissa process, obviously this is just a really high overview, but you apply that same process with any inner critic conversation, whether it's fear, Rissa, overwhelm, Rissa, lack of confidence, Rissa. And then you don't even actually have to apply it, because it's no longer, you don't experience those feelings anymore. That's the kicker in it, right? When you become unconsciously competent. So 15-year-old getting in the car, it's all clunky, unconsciously incompetent. Get in the car now, don't even think about it, unconsciously competent. When you become unconsciously competent in the application of what it is that you know, and then if you know about your default to that degree, you can't hang out in it. You just can't.
I love that. Unconscionably competent.
Wow. It's true.
Yes. Unconscionably confident. Damn. I think, Sally, I think you're making some impact here, Sally. We have a question. How best to help our children recognize those taps on the shoulder? I try to let them see me process my emotions and issues, but I admit I avoid the conversation. I haven't gotten myself out of the place of judgment and am ready to talk without preferences. Wow. I mean, we're all in that situation, Brooke, and thank you so much for being here tonight and sharing that. What do you guys think about that? What's your perspective on that?
I have a perfect answer for that one.
Bring it, baby.
So, Brooke, real quick, I have a program, and, you know, I'm listening to Sally talk, and we're going to have to talk after this too, because I've heard a lot of things about kids being mentioned in emotional attachment and working through your stuff.
Yes.
So my program, Brooke, is called Go Love Now. And I teach kids about love, compassion, and kindness, specifically self-love. And we have an acronym where we teach the youth and adults to listen, observe, voice, and empathize. And then we also teach them a fear model, which is forgive. And it's forgive yourself and others and eliminate beliefs that no longer serve you or may have never served you. And then it's accepting yourself and others where they're at in their journey, and then rising up and being resilient. One of the things that I teach kids, especially middle schoolers, I'm not sure the age of your children, but anybody can do this, is you ask them a very specific, and this is to get them to get those taps before the freight train hits. You say, write down, or just think of a person that drives you crazy. Think of the person that, you know, you always feel like you're not good enough around or nothing works. And it might be you. It might be the parent. It could be a teacher. It could be a coach. This is where that you might not want them to tell you, you know, but here's what you tell them to do. Think of the person. And then what you do is you write down 10 negatives about this person. And so here's what they're going to do. They're going to write, they're always mean to me. They always say this. They always do this. I hate this. And they're going to write down 10 negatives. Those negatives are going to be the triggers that are showing up in their life. Those are going to be the triggers. Then have them try to write 10 positives. And so what they're going to do is they're going to try to write 10 positive, and it's going to be a little bit tougher, because if it's a teacher or whatever, they can't see the positive because they're hearing the negative. within that 10, that list they create, they're going to start seeing the things that are triggering them. Those are the lessons that I guarantee you will show up later. So it might be, why are you so jumpy? Why you can't sit still? Why do you always do this? Why do you always do that? Those are the things, I promise you, that are going to show up later. So it might just be, I'm not jumpy, I'm blank. I'm not this, I'm that. But get them to write those things down and start thinking about those, because a lot of the answers will lie within that. And I do the same thing to adults in coaching too. And there's a lot of value within that.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Great encapsulation, Scott. I mean, so much powerful information is being shared tonight. We're actually impacting these people here on the comments. And we just love that. When you guys think about the inner critic, where does that come from? I'm so fascinated by the fact of what it takes for us to become who we are. I'm 51 years old and have had the pleasure of having so many amazing experiences in my life. But when I think about my inner critic, I try to go back, and Sally knows this about me, and Scott, you're learning this, is the fact of where does this originate? When you think about all the stuff that we were going through, I was coaching somebody the other day, and I said, when you think about the conditioning process that happens from 0 to 5, you talk about, we're born these impressionable souls. We're born, without our emotional intelligence. We come through the birth canal early because our brains are so big, and we have to learn all these things from 0 to 5. And you realize, when I was telling somebody this the other day, they really got it. And I was like, okay, when you think about 0 to 5, when you're born, you're the best thing ever. You are the, you can shit, you can fart, you can throw up, you can do everything, and you're perfect. Then all of a sudden you play in the corner for 2 hours. You don't say anything. Little Johnny's doing awesome. Mommy and friend are sitting there having a great time. And then Johnny spills his milk. And then what happens? Oh, well, wait a minute. A second ago, I was getting great attention. Now all of a sudden I'm doing something wrong. What do I need to do better to get your attention back where I'm positive? And then you think about the things where kids are positive. They're like, they're not positive, but they're honest. And they sit there and say, why is grandma so fat? Why does that person have so many bumps on their face? And then all of a sudden we have to go through that conditioning process where we say, no, wait. Don't tell the truth. Don't always tell the truth. No, we're taught this before 5 years old. No, you don't always tell the truth. You have to tell a white lie. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, I tell a white lie about this, but if I tell a lie about this, then I'm in trouble because I'm lying and I'm not saying the truth. So at these young ages, we're so conflicted and so fucked up. And then we're told about Santa Claus, Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny. You think about that shit. And then you think about all the other shit that's going on with our parents and society and teachers and our friends and everything else before the age of 5. When you think about that, when I go back and I think about the inner critic, that's where I go back and think about what are the stories, what are the situations that happen in our lives that cause us to have the beliefs and the conditioning that cause us to have the actions and the responsibilities and the feelings that we have today. That's where I'm interested in. What do you guys think about that? Do you think it really starts when we're in adolescence, or do you think it's something that we pick up later in life and that's a belief that we hold on to because we're scared and we're vulnerable and we're afraid of the fear of the judgment? What do you guys think about that?
Well, I'd love to jump in here and give even a deeper possibility.
Please.
I was waiting for this. I was forcing this to you. This was you.
So even, and I'm right there with you, that how we are inundated with information from 0, and I typically say to 7, that we don't have the mental capacity to understand things that are happening. So we're really tapped into our subtle energy at that time. But it happens even before, when you're in utero, you're surrounded by fluid, and frequency travels 5 times as fast through fluid or water as it does air. So understand this on an amplification standpoint, that whatever environment the impregnated mother is in, especially toward the last 2 to 3 months, that child is receiving that information and that vibration 5 times as powerful as it is happening outside. So if there's any confrontation, if there's any stress that the mother's going through, the child is being inundated with those frequencies. Now, potentially this can set a precedence for how this child is going to respond when it comes out into the world, because they have already created frequencies that they will be drawn to, not out of their preference, but through training. Entrainment, it is called in the vibrational world. So this training starts potentially even in utero, and then whatever the environment is amplified. And then, yes, we spend the majority of our adult lives trying to take care of things from my perspective that happened from 7 years old back. And our lives are creating situations for us to heal those and to recalibrate those frequencies. So I just wanted to throw that out there about even going back, even further. And I had conversations with my mother and found out that when I was born, my mother went in for a hysterectomy. She was 39 years old, and they actually opened her up and was like, whoa, we can't do this. And so I was a major so-called accident. And so when I understood that my parents had actually gone through a divorce and then they got back together, and I was actually conceived out of wedlock, and these energies, my family was very Christian oriented. So that helped me to understand the energies of insecurity, of fear, of all this doubt, because my mother and father, after they had been married for 25 years, they split up for a couple of years, got back together, had me. And then this whole, they had a plan. Their child raising days were over. So not that I never felt unwanted, but I wasn't part of the plan. And there had to be major adjustments and stress oriented with that. So that helped me not to judge my parents, but to understand the environment that I came into, helped me to forgive them. Because then, especially being an adult and knowing what it's like to raise kids, to have these stressors, it helps me to forgive and to accept. And that is the beginning step of this emotional healing and relieving these traumas, is that acceptance. And as it's been talked about, getting rid of the victim mentality.
Dude, holy shit, Alexander, fuck. Dude, I'm the one that's going to cuss on here, so all you guys out there with soft ears, holy shit, fucking thank you for saying that shit. I mean, wow. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I am talking about. That's amazing. Yes. I mean, thank you so much.
So we're really dealing with so much more as human beings than most people have any, even beginning concept of. And as Sally was saying earlier, my heart goes out to the people that, truly don't have faith, that don't have the trust in the process. And, it can make me weep at times, feeling that, because I was one of those. I was the doubter. I was that person that just looked to the chaos as well. So I just so appreciate everyone's power in sharing here this evening. It's been truly an honor to be part of it.
No, seriously, dude. Thank you for that. And I'm going to do something really crazy right now. I'm going to do something really crazy because Sally is my coach. Sally, I want you to share with them kind of the process you took me through from being a survivor and being a controller and being attached to certain stories in my life. What did you do, aside from what you've already discussed, to get me out of that frame of mind? Because I think I know it's so powerful and I'm so grateful for it. I want you to share that. And I want you guys to comment also, because we've also got, look at this. Excellent point, Alexander. There are studies coming out that cats finding a correlation between trauma or stress while in utero and the chronic urinary tract disease. They call it Pandora syndrome now. Yes, of course there is. Oh, hey, we got Dina here. Dina's in the house. What's up, Dina? And Aaron asked a question: is that why mothers play classical music to their unborn babies?
It's been proven. Yes, to help.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're doing this thing. It's really cool. We got it for Jackson, but it's been more for us adults in the house. They're called a cup of caterpillars, and we got it for Jackson to kind of show him the evolution of life and just kind of start teaching him about, the progression of life and the transformation that we go through. And what's been fucking amazing about it is that the three adults in the house, myself, my wife, and my mother-in-law, we've been more enamored with it because we see the correlation of what it is that we go through. We were talking about it, and I was like, okay, literally, it's amazing. Everybody should do it. They get these little bitty caterpillars. You're like, that doesn't look like a caterpillar. It looks like an ant. And then they're eating this stuff. And within a couple of days, I'm taking pictures of it. It's miraculous. And all of a sudden they're like this. You remember how caterpillars were when you were kids. I hope you played with them when you were kids. And then all of a sudden it talks about the whole biological process of what it is that they do. They eat, and all of a sudden they're growing, and then it's now been about 7 or 8 days, and now they're cocooned. We watched them make their cocoon, and now they're hanging from the top of this cup. And we know that tomorrow we're going to transfer them to this little. They gave us this little webbed cage, I guess. We're going to put them in there, and then they're going to break through their cocoon. They're going to become butterflies. They're going to strengthen their wings, and they're going to fly. I mean,
incredible.
What a fucking beautiful analogy for what life really is. And the people that are watching this right now and watching us, for us, I think we have come out of that cocoon and we're flying and we're figuring out how to free fall, as Sally would so eloquently say. And the beauty of that, and again, I'm going to say this again because Sally said this, Steve Harvey, the video seconds, it talks about the fact that we have to jump. And when you think about these caterpillars going through this metamorphosis to become butterflies, that's what we're all doing. And some of us are stuck in our cocoon. Some of us are stuck being a caterpillar. We don't want to grow. We don't want to go through that metamorphosis, that uncomfortable situation where we have to cocoon ourselves and figure out what is our responsibility in the situation and stop blaming other people. When I think about the inner critic, my first thought was blame. Is that we're going to blame everybody else. We're going to blame our parents. We're going to blame society. We're going to blame our religion. We're going to blame our friends. We're going to blame our teachers. But in actuality, when you think about it, the cocooning process, to my level of experience, is the fact that once you accept that this is a journey that's unfolding in front of you every single moment, and it's a beautiful experience, and you don't try to control it, you don't try to predict it, that is life unfolding in front of you. And once you do that, you become that butterfly. I mean, I seriously think that. What do you guys think about the metamorphosis and the shit we have to go through in our life to become the butterfly? So many people are avoiding it. What do you guys say? What do you guys speak to that?
We're all dodging it.
I mean, it's powerful. I'm sitting there watching this stuff. My kid could care less. And I'm sitting there going, I was in that process. Sally watched me. She came to me and she's like, fuck, dude, you need to be successful. You need to get out of your own way. You need to stop being a survivor. And it takes people being, not confrontational, but being passionate and being honest about it to call us on our shit. What do you guys speak to that from this experience in your life that has gotten you through something where you had to become the butterfly because somebody had to get in your shit?
Chris, I mean, it's so simple. It's think about this, okay? I mean, we can look at every part of society, and I know Cindy and Alexander are thinking the same. Sorry, Sally and Alexander are thinking the same thing. We have two choices, and I do this in my class all the time when I'm teaching business to the college students. We've got comfort and we've got uncertainty. I mean, here's the deal. As a human being or as a caterpillar, do you really think you can fly? I mean, just think about it. You're crawling around like this. You're literally going to lose that entire body and become something else. It's crazy. Now, as a caterpillar, you don't have a choice. You go into that cocoon, chrysalis, whatever it is, you pop out, you're flying. The thing is, we don't really have a choice either, but we can slow down the process. We can mess with the process. We can not learn the lessons, get hit by freight trains and become teachers, whatever we want. But here's the deal. We are going to fly. That's it. So we got comfort and we can say, I love the Matrix. I love this game. I want to just drink beer. I want to go play. I want to do this. Or we can just look deep inside ourselves and say, I am creator. I fly.
Yes.
That's it.
I am creator. I fly.
That's it.
Sally.
There's a number of things here. I will answer the question, but I just want to backtrack a bit. When Alex was talking about what he was talking about was reference to the birthing process before the conditioning starts. There was a study done in a prison that over 95% of the most hardened criminals were actually forced at births. And given that we're forced at births.
Forced at birth?
They're getting pulled out. They're eating
trauma. Forcept. Oh, okay. Okay, shit. Sorry.
So I was doing a lot of study at the time, always fascinated about, because the original question was, the formation of the formation of the inner critic. And be it you're impacted obviously by teachers, environment, siblings, parents, siblings actually is a big one, as to your worldview. Our beliefs and our values are adopted at that stage that then forms the behaviors, the structures, the culture, and then the results of how we show up in the world. So the formation, just answering that question, the formation of one's inner critic specifically is actually a safety mechanism. Bloody dysfunctional, but it's actually a safety mechanism because it keeps you under the radar. So I just wanted to speak into that. The other question that was raised around youth, having coached youth for over 30 years from every spectrum, they're the hardest demographic to coach, I might add, because they don't talk. However, for that mother who was talking about her son, my only recommendation where kids are concerned is listen. Your kids can handle what it is that you want to tell them. Parents often do not listen to their children as, regardless of, there are some 3-year-olds on this planet that are running families. They can handle stuff, right? So if you shift your listening of your child and actually have a conversation with them from the basis that they can handle the conversation, they'll handle it. That's a function of who you're being. So I just wanted to recommend that for that conversation. But back to your question that you got right now. At the end of the day, given that I specialize in the default identity, you have a choice. You can either spend the next day, week, month, year, decade to the day you die cultivating your default identity, which is finding enough carnage to validate your self-belief about yourself, or you can die to that level of identity. Somebody who's single and all of a sudden in a relationship, 2 very different identities. Somebody who's struggling financially to somebody who's sorted financially, 2 very different identities. You try and achieve the relationship or achieve the financial stability without having done the work on your default, you'll sabotage it. So there's not enough awareness in the marketplace around what I term this default level of identity, which is the mechanism that keeps you under the radar, which has you sabotage your potential and does not allow you to sustain change. I'll always bring it back to choice. We have a choice on what we think, choice on what we do, choice on what we say, choice on who we're being in the world. And training yourself to apply. So the mantra I live by is what you're thinking, forwarding the game. If it's not, don't think it. Is what you're doing, forwarding the game. If it's not, don't do it. Is what you're saying, forwarding the game. If it's not, don't say it. And is who you're being on a day-to-day basis, forwarding your game. If it's not, don't be that. You got to know what your game is. Even that is hard to get out of people because they have an automatic belief that it's not possible, which would make sense because they operate out of their default identity and they've found enough evidence to sink a ship that it's not possible. So it always comes back to choice. And whether the pain, people, until the pain, which comes back to the freight train, fundamentally, it's all very well to hear about the bloody butterfly and the fly and all that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, for the person who wants to fly, try on, you don't. Try on everything that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. You're actually loving being exactly where you're at. Reverse psychology is really, really powerful because at the end of the day, you want to transform, you got to fall in love with being confronted. You got to fall in love with being resistant. You got to fall in love with being uncomfortable as the norm. Those are the shoes for anybody.
Yes, the norm.
Running forward. And like, who wants to run and do that? So it's like, oh.
So Sally, I want to add something fun
Mic drop, mic drop, mic drop, mic drop, mic drop. Seriously, fucking people, like, listen to that shit. Yeah. Thank you. Scott, what's going on, brother? I can see you.
I'm so on board with it, and I'm thinking of I want to go back to the term unconsciously competent because that's such a beautiful term. And there's say it again and again, and let everybody hear it, process it, and write it down because that's a term I use as well, and I love that conceptually because here's the deal: practice makes that. Once you practice it enough, it's kind of like you're just going to show up, and there's going to be a flow. And until that, it's in practice state. And I want to bring up a point because, and I think I saw my mom on here earlier. I don't know if she's still here, but there was a point when I was a kid, and this is a true story, where I had gone in for stitches so many times that the nurse, they called Child Protective Services because they're like, this woman must be beating this kid. It was me just being a maniac, getting hurt. And here's the truth behind it. I know this sounds insane, but to your point, Sally, you were saying that young kids can run a household. I knew I was a teacher from day one, and I literally would get hurt and I'd go, I feel it. I feel alive. And so whatever that pain threshold was, then I felt the good, and I can't explain it, but I would have like a broken finger, my face, and my mom, if she's listening, is laughing. I'd be bleeding and everyone's like crying, and I'm like, no, we're good. Let's do the stitches and get me back on the playground because now I can feel. And so to that point, I'm listening to it. We just want to go out there and we want to make the choices so we can feel this existence. And again, don't go run into freight trains and don't do it like I did, but that's my choice. It's my choice. So I'm just listening, and the fun thing about being around smart people is they make you remember the things you're thinking. So it's beautiful listening to you guys. It's beautiful, and yeah, it's all
amazing. So wait, I think this is do we know this person?
That's my mom. She's
well, she's my mom now because she's cool. It was so funny. She was watching one of our last lives. She's like, "Oh my God, you're just like Scott." You're just like, it's like,
that's a good thing.
Thank you, Mom, for being here. I mean, shit. I mean, we've been doing these now for a while, and just the power of the impact of what we're doing and what we're saying, and we still have people watching this. Still people joining on. Cindy says, can you ask Alex the twin question? Could be very enlightening to me as a twin, died at 6 months in the womb when mom fell down the stairs. That is super interesting. Do you guys have input on that? I mean, Alex, she was asking that directly to you, but that's super important. I've had friends that I have a really good friend that still feels guilty to this day that his twin was died stillborn from being wrapped around the umbilical cord. I guess apparently he was born and and his brother or sister was not. So talk to us about that. That's a very intriguing question.
Yeah, well, I happen to have raised twins and had that scenario that when they came out, and I got with their mother when they were 3 years old, but when they came out, one of the umbilical cords was wrapped around the other one, and they had to do emergency C-section, and fortunately everything worked out. But to touch on and nothing is like that bond. Nothing is like watching twins grow up together. I mean, it's amazing. So in connecting to the question, there can certainly be a sense of loss there, a sense of connection, like potentially throughout one's life, because that there was a connection there for a while. And so, turning that energy around to utilize, I've gone through a lot of death has been my experience as well. And death has taught me to live and to love. Mm-hmm. And so when I think of something that I feel like is missing from someone from my past, I pull on a strength. And I know that this is harder from that baby standpoint, but I pull on a strength of theirs, and you can tap in intuitively to call on them because we still have connections. We still are connected. So I like to suggest that when we go into any despair or feeling any void, reach out for the communication. What I like to do is I go immediately and represent something that person, I go do something that person represented to me, to burn off that missing, burn off that void, to fill it up with something that I experienced. And so once again, in this situation, it could be more of an intuitive, that if you do feel like a void in your life, to know that you're still connected to that energy, and you could have an amazing, spiritual or energetic connection, and be open to communicating with that. To me, it's very real, and those connections stay connected. But I'd love to hear what anyone else has to share as well.
I've actually had a number of clients, obviously having coached a lot of women in my time, but specifically on that. And from a healing perspective, I've probably trialed every healing modality in the last 30 odd years. So huge advocate for working through those feelings through a modality that's going to assist you. The best that I'd recommend in this particular instance would be hypnotherapy. There are some phenomenal hypnotherapists that can actually do regression therapy, as well as there's a phenomenal woman that I know in Brisbane, but I know she's not the only one, that does creating artwork through the healing process and the grieving process. Grief can last for a very long period of time. And being able to have some visual representation of the experience to heal and to be able to acknowledge the grief. Forgiveness, obviously, in a lot of cases, people make themselves wrong. I make the distinction between experiential forgiveness and analytical forgiveness. People who just talk through the process of forgiveness versus And for me, it's 80, 20, 90, 10. So 90% analytical, I forgive the person versus not, versus experiential forgiveness, where you forgive yourself for what you've done to yourself. True experiential forgiveness starts with yourself. A lot of people make themselves wrong when other things happen to another party. But healing. You can't put a dollar value on it. Everything that Alex is talking about, love upside down, back to front. You can't put a dollar value on it to be able to reintegrate back and being whole and complete.
Well said. Well said.
Wow. Any other contributions on that note?
I mean, I always go back to the same stuff, Chris. I really just think that we are perspectives or nodes or, individuals in the sense that we're all one, we're all creator. And so just imagine this, that, you are coming into this space with another node, and you're getting to see this existence for that node. So you're still deeply connected to them. There's no question. And to, Alexander's point, I mean, it's energetic. We literally are all one creator consciousness. And I think that might be the easiest word to process, consciousness or being. And so within our individual perspective, it's a beautiful thing and an honor, I think, for Cindy to be able to represent and be that perspective right now. But she's still deeply connected in consciousness, as everybody is here together. Right now, we're all the same beautiful being, and we've created this contrast so that we can live and feel. And I've seen the word feel come up multiple times too, and it's created through frequency, and it's all being laid out here. A lot of info to process, but just think of this: nothing ever left. We're all here. We're all conscious. We're all one. We're all enjoy the process. And sometimes it's hard to find joy in it. So experience the process, but there's joy in it, and there's joy at the end of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, excuse me, in the interest of time and everybody else's evenings and whatnot, I would like to finish it out with closing statements of what you guys feel that you could best recommend to the viewers tonight. Cause I know that we have provided phenomenal power. I mean, Jesus, I've seen people like just posting so many different things here. What are your recommendations that are tangible, realistic, and actionable now that people can do today and tomorrow and the next day to fight that inner critic, to let that inner critic, to let that inner child, give that inner child forgiveness of whatever it is that they've been through, to not be a victim to that inner critic of the fear of the judgment, the fear of the failure, the fear of everything else, and to be able to, like we're doing, free fall into the moment. I mean, this is unscripted. I mean, that's my whole show, is raw and unscripted. This is unscripted. And to be able to free fall into the moment is such an amazing experience. What do you guys recommend to people who are control freaks, who are freaking out at the moment, who don't know what tomorrow is going to bring? What is your particular viewpoint and your aspect of what can help them today to get past this and to thrive through this? Because there's going to be some people who are not going to make it. There's some people who are going to be in that victim mindset, are going to blame the government, blame the president, blame everybody else that they're not going to make it. But there's going to be survivors that are going to be scratching to figure out what it is that we have figured out and that we're working towards. What is your opinion and what is your advice that people can actually take action on today?
Mine's quick, so I'll just throw it. It's this simple. We are one. There's oneness. There's no separation. So you can trust. So if there's no separation, okay, we've got individual nodes that we've experienced through. There's no separation. Trust the process. Alexander said it. Sally said it. Have faith in something. You don't even need to know what you have faith in. Just know this. We're all deeply connected. We want the best for one another. We're working through. We're in different spaces of light and darkness, but we're going to get there. Trust that process, become present, take deep breaths, listen to those that are around you, those angels. Try not to get hit by the freight train. Just look for the tabs. There you go.
Awesome, Scott. Thank you, brother. That was brilliant. Who would like to share next?
Trying to keep it simple.
I love it. I love simple. It's easy. If you like something, do it. If you don't like something, stop. I tell people that life is so simple. It's like, if you like something, do more of it. And if you don't like something, stop it. And most people don't stop the shit that they don't like doing.
Oh God, that's true, man.
Like you're a fucking moron.
Yeah. Actually, Chris, they're just humans. That's all it is. We're humans. I don't even know what the moron is.
Some of them are more moronic as humans, as you know from the post that we were discussing earlier today. There are some people that are just going to have these disbeliefs, these unbelievable Kool-Aid drinking motherfuckers out there who are going to think that shit is just unattainable. They're going to be victims for the rest of their life. And I've decided now that I cannot save those. Those are the people I'm not meant to be here for. I'm here to be for the people who are like, fuck, give me something to hold on to. What is it that I'm going to grab onto? That's what I looked for when I was a kid, and I was trying to figure it out, because otherwise I'd be dead or in jail or fucking, an alcoholic or something like that. That's what I'm talking about. That's what we're speaking to today. Some people are just going to be victims, and they're going to be in their own shit for the rest of their lives until the pain becomes so great that they need to change. But tonight, I'm thinking about the survivors. I'm thinking about the people that are hanging on to hope and belief that things are going to get better. Who else would like to go next?
Well, I'm going to just give a more playful approach, just because it's the first thing that came to me. And so anyone that's hearing that inner critic, what I'd like to suggest for you to try is consider if you were talking with an 8-year-old child and they were saying the things about themselves that you're saying to yourself. What would you want to say to them to bring them out of that? And listen to what you would say to them, because I happen to feel that conscious communication is 75% energy transference and 25% words. And this is where many parents break down, is they try to teach things to their children through words that they don't exemplify. So when we take time to say, how would I explain this to a 7 or 8-year-old child to lift them out of this? Normally, when that works, it's going to be more than words. It's going to be true love connected, compassion, empathy. Many things are involved in that. And we need to remember that we all have an inner child. I like to say it's in our second chakra around our navel. Mm-hmm. And we need to remind that inner child. I talk to mine all the time. I was talking to him today, just rubbing my belly saying, Alexander, everything's really good. Everything is good. So, of course, I can feel the subtle energy of the mass consciousness. And I just don't allow that in, but a certain distance, just enough to feel it. And then I say, no, that's not our truth. So try that just playfully, of how you feel like you would talk to a child, and believe that yourself.
Dude, I love that so much that I want to dovetail on that for a second before we let Sally speak. I've been to therapy many times in my life for depression, for various situations in my life. And I went to a therapist one time, and what the funny part was I was coaching her more than she was coaching me. And I was sitting there thinking, okay, this is bullshit. And then out of nowhere, she says, Chris, when did you stop being a kid? Wow. And I was like, she goes, I'm trying to get to the real Chris. What Sally was able to do. She's like, I'm trying to find the real Chris. And I'm like, I am the real Chris. This is who I am. She goes, no, I'm hearing positive Chris. I'm hearing coaching Chris. She goes, when did you stop being a kid? And that shook me. And I was like, 6. And she's like, wow, why? And I said, because I had to become an adult. I was a latchkey kid. I was being bullied. I was being chased on my doorstep. My mom wouldn't come home until 6 o'clock at night. I couldn't go inside the house. I said, I became an adult. I had to take care of the cats. I had to take care of everything else. I said, I was 6 years old. And she goes, okay, cut yourself a fucking break. Mm. And honestly, that was one of the most profound things I've ever had in therapy. I was like, holy shit. And it's so funny because my mom growing up was such a brilliant person. I mean, magnificently brilliant in books. I mean, she read all these doctor books. She could talk to doctors, and they asked her where she practiced medicine. That's how brilliant she was. But people smart, she was stupid as the fucking day is long. And, when I think about the experiences of my life and everything that happened, it all happened for me. So I just invite you guys to let your little kid be a little kid and understand that it's okay. But when I'd asked her, she would like, I'm 4 years old. I'm like, Mom, you're a grown fucking adult. Shut the fuck up. And she's like, no, I'm 4 years old. And it wasn't until after she passed away. It wasn't until after I was looking like, okay, why am I blaming her? Why am I mad at her? She could have done so many things differently, and she could have. But when I pass on forgiveness, like you guys were saying before, when I decided to forgive her and realize that if I'd walked in her shoes, if I had been the daughter to my grandmother, who was not a very nice person, might I have been like her? Might have I turned out like her? We have so many gifts in this world that we have access to the internet. We have access to YouTube. We have access to so many positive things that we can change our outlook. People ask me all the time, how did you not be fucked up like your mom was? And I said, because I chose to find out who was successful and model that and go after that, and not to be a victim of my circumstances, but be a victor of the fact that the shit that happened to me. So thank you for sharing that, because a lot of us have these little kids inside of us. And I talk to them as a coaching coaching person, I'm like, okay, where is that 4-year-old? Where's that 5-year-old? Where did this happen? What fucked you up? So thank you for sharing that. And I will now let Sally have her final comments because she's just fucking brilliant.
Conscious of time. So
that's not a picture of me. That's not a picture of me.
So I beat the crap out of my little girl for a good 30 odd years. And so love what you were spoken to there, Alex. Inner child work is very powerful from a healing perspective. So as far as 3 recommendations, one definitely is to find a photo of yourself between the age of 3 and 5 and reconnect to who you were before you shut down. Do the healing work. Find a healer who can partner you on that journey because it is priceless. When I first started doing inner child work, I thought it was a crock of shit because I was so disassociated, so disconnected, and so skeptical. So I'm a prime example of somebody who's gone from one extreme to the other, but it saved my life. So inner child work, definitely. Healing work, definitely. And if there is a financial constraint, which obviously with COVID-19, a lot of people are in that situation, but you're still wanting to do work on yourself, is to actually write a list of 50 things that you tolerate. It's a bit like doing the dishes. You know, you do the dishes and then there's another set of dishes. So writing the exercise of writing 50 things that you tolerate, financial tolerations, relationship tolerations, organizational tolerations, declutter tolerations. I mean, it's just a cross-section of tolerations in our lives. Make sure you nail 50 and then be able to re-rank them in order of priority. Because when you start to go to work on, so the distinction toleration is a persistent complaint. So I don't tolerate anything that ain't working in my life. I lead a toleration-free life. And if I catch myself complaining about something, I shift my stinking thinking around it because obviously I've got a choice. And the Rissa process that I spoken to earlier, it's tried and proven. It works to shift any disempowered state and or any inner critic conversation. Obviously coupled with healing is integral to any form of recalibration, reintegration. But those 3 things would be what I'd leave your listeners with today. And thank you for the privilege of being here. And thank you to Scott and to Alexander. Wonderful to bounce in conversation with you. Huge respect. Love you always, Chris. And any of your listeners who are hesitating getting in touch with Chris, get your act together and just give the man a call. I can vouch for him 1,000%. Love the man upside down in between.
Oh. You are magnificent. Look at this. I mean, God, guys. I mean, looking forward to going back to the start and hearing from the beginning. So much amazing transformative information. Oh, my reading glasses on. Thank you guys for your knowledge. I mean, phenomenal conversation. Thank you for your input. In my experience, self-forgiveness is way harder than forgiving another person. Yes. That is, look at this. We love you all. Oh, thank you, Mom. Sorry, sorry, you have another brother. So, wow, such an impactful. I mean, we've been going for an hour and 42 minutes, and respect from everybody's time. I just want to thank you 3 seriously for being in my journey for my life. When I look back at my life from November 7th of 2019, when my identity changed forever, when I went from a 26-year corporate career, safe income, safe stability, safe identity, and to where I'm at now, May 7th will be 6 months. I determined that yesterday or earlier today. When you do what Sally's talking about and you do what these guys are talking about and you do the work, the other side of that cocoon, that butterfly experience that we have is truly amazing. It's truly awe-inspiring. It's scary as fuck. I encourage you guys all to go look at Steve Harvey's video. Thank you, Sally, because I've recommended that like 7 million times already. Jump. Because Steve Harvey, in encapsulation of it, he says, ladies and gentlemen, when you see your friends soaring, you're like, oh, they're going here and they're doing this and they're so happy and they're buying that and they're going on vacation. And you're sitting there wondering what's happening. And you realize that you have to jump and you're scared to jump. You're scared. Okay, you're gonna scratch your back. You're gonna get bumped up. You're gonna be fearful. Things aren't gonna be certain. But eventually your chute is going to open, your parachute's going to open, and you're going to start to fly and you're going to figure things out. And that's the beauty of it, that you start to soar and you free fall and you just accept the fact that you're strong enough to accept whatever's going to happen in the moment, that you're going to be strong enough to survive it. Because when you think about all the stuff that we've been through in our life, we've overcome it. We're amazing at all the different things that people are watching this can think about their life, that, oh, I overcame that and I learned from that. But the fact is that you never jump, your chute is never going to open. And I believe that the 4 of us tonight are sitting there telling everybody, okay, stop your inner critic, stop the self-doubt, stop stop the victimization of your own self and that inner child, and start to grow and start to take chances and start to take risks. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to look back on your life and say, holy shit, I didn't do that because I was afraid of somebody making a judgment. You're going to realize it's the stupidest fucking thing in the world. Who cares who thinks of you? I can sit there and cite Bible and verse for the last 6 months of the people that in my life that I'm disappointed in. But at the same time, I'm so grateful for them because now they were in my life and now they're not. Now I'm engaging with so many other people because I'm in my space. I'm in my zone of genius, not my zone of excellence, but my zone of genius. And I just thank you guys for being here and being a part of my life, because it's so transformative when you really understand that you're not in control of everything. You can't control all the outcomes. You can't predict what's going to happen. And the fact that you're living in the moment, you're truly living, you're not existing. And so I just want to thank you guys so much for being here. And I hope you guys all had impact. You guys can go back and replay this. You guys can share this out again. We appreciate that. We appreciate you guys being here. And really, Sally and Alexander, thank you guys for sharing your time and your spirit and your love and your vulnerability and everything else that you guys did, because I know it made an impact on people. I know it made an impact on the people that were watching tonight. I know it's going to make an impact on the people that watch the replay. I know it's going to make an impact with the people that share this shit out. So thank you guys. I just want to honor and acknowledge you guys.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Scott, Mr. Scott, any whoops. Let me see if I can do this. Okay. I'm like trying to
see what you just did. You showed all of us because we're all one.
Yes. But I want to kind of round it out because you, my brother, I mean, you brought Alexander, I brought Sally to the conversation. We brought other people throughout this process. We have more people coming in the coming weeks that are exciting. Next week, we have Glenn Morshower. We have JV Crum. We have, who do we have? We have, who did your video for Go Love Now?
Ty Sweet's going to be coming. We've got a guy who's also known as the voice guitarist. He created the song for Go Love Now. I wrote it. He performed it. I wrote it with another good friend of mine. We've got some amazing people. There's so many people in the pipeline. It's literally a matter of what we're trying to do is pair them up so that we have max impact and try to create a little bit of contrast too, so that maybe we'll bring a few people who are completely opposite on a few and just sit back and let them go, you know, and we're going to have a lot of fun. There's going to be fire. There's going to be knowledge. There's going to be heart. There's going to be a lot of good stuff. I'm going to end it for me on something really simple.
Sure.
Please do us and yourselves a favor. Bring your friends on to this show and ask the tough questions, because Chris and I are not afraid to try to answer the tough questions. You can ask us anything. And if we don't have an answer, you know, we're going to do our best to do it. And if we don't have it on the show, we'll get it to you later. The guests that we're bringing on are going to be super knowledgeable. We're not trying to be the smartest man in the room by any means. We're bringing some super heart smart and brain smart people on board, and that's not going to stop. So in fact, I want to be the dumbest person out of the four every single time. It's because I'm selfish. I want to learn. I want to get on here and learn stuff.
Look at this. Love the show and your personality, Chris. Well, thank you. Yes. I mean, you guys are phenomenal. Where can people get a hold of you, Sally and Alexander? Where is the best place to reach you guys, connect with you guys? Because obviously you guys are fire. You guys have a lot of value to give to the community. Where can people get a hold of you?
Please, Sally.
That's dumb. So the only medium that I'm on social media wise is LinkedIn. So I write leadership articles, mindset oriented articles on a weekly basis. So there's quite a vault of information there. I'm quite prolific on LinkedIn as my main business medium. I predominantly operate offshore, so I will be showing up a lot more in the States. So LinkedIn is the best place to track me down.
Awesome. And you, Mr. Alexander.
Wonderful. So
you're like a cool cat, man.
Thank you. Alexander Tuttle, Tuttle on Facebook. I'm at Journeys Unite on Instagram, and thejustphilosophy.com is my website. And then the podcast, as it's been shown a few times, is wise-wise.com. And so please reach out. Yes, I have thoroughly enjoyed this. Such a great powwow. And once again, just honored to connect with all of you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You guys have been amazing. Seriously. I just want to close it out by saying thank you, and to really encourage you all to think deep inside and think about what it is that you've been through and where you're going, because it's not about the past and it's not about the future. It's about the moment in the present, because that's all we have. We try to control things from a futuristic standpoint. We try to control things from a previous standpoint. We try to give it our own meaning. When you think about the stories that you tell people, not all of it is true. And I found that fascinating recently. A lot of the stories that we describe to people now are versions of our own truth. They're not really the truth. So when you think about that, are you setting yourself up for success, or are you setting yourself up for failure by rewriting those stories that aren't even true? Whether or not those are true or not, it doesn't matter. It's where you are at today, where it is that you want to go tomorrow. So I strongly, strongly encourage you guys to connect with these people, because that's going to be the gateway for you to realize that you're going to get out of the survivor shit into the thriver, you know, to become unstoppable, to have those no excuses, to have that kick-ass life where you look back and you go, I don't have any regrets. I fucking took chances. I risked. I let people go. I went for the things that I wanted to go for, because at the end of the day, you don't want to look back in your life and go, wow, I should have done that. Oh my God. You think about the book, The 5 Regrets of the Dying, which is an amazing book. And you think about the fact that most people on their deathbed look back on their life and they say, holy shit, I wish I would have lived my life for myself and not for everybody else. And when you think about you live in life of judgment of your parents and your society and everything else, how crippling is that? If you want to go be a fucking singer, go be a singer. If people want you to become a lawyer, tell them to fuck off and go do what you want to do. That's what life is about. You can either exist in life or you can live in life. And I'm just going to leave you with that. And I just want to thank you guys all for being here. My team here is just freaking unbelievable. And to you guys, I just want to say goodnight and I love you.
Blessings.
And you guys hang on. I'm going to end the broadcast, but I want to talk to you guys. So those of you guys out there listening, watching, thank you for sharing. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for spending your Friday night with us. We love you. We're going to keep bringing it every single Friday night. And we love for you to share and contribute and be a part of the conversation. Sally and Alexander, you guys are beautiful. Scott, I love you, man. And we'll see you guys next week. And you guys have a great weekend.
Beautiful.